Okay, so what we are talking about today are reflexive verbs. Okay. Does anybody know what a reflexive verb is? It's not really something we learn too much in English because there is a big distinction in Spanish. It's very obvious. Now, if you think back to it, a reflexive verb is a verb where normally in a sentence we have a subject, a verb, and some sort of object. Okay? And in a sentence, who usually performs the verb? The subject does. Okay? So an example, if I were saying, I read a book, who's the subject? I am. Why? Because I am reading a book. Okay? The book is the object. Now when I reflect, so normally, as I said, the subject performs the action of the verb. Now in that sentence, I read a book, what's receiving the action of the verb? I'm performing the action. Who's receiving the action? What's being read? The book. Okay? That's kind of a standard thing. In a reflexive verb, the subject not only performs the verb, but the subject also receives the action of the verb. Okay? So an example. Who here has a dog? Okay. So, Mel, you have a dog. Do you wash your dog?
Yes.
Okay. So Mel bathes her dog. Okay? We can all agree. Who's the subject in this sentence?
The dog.
Who performs the bath? Mel is the subject. The verb is bathe. Who or what receives the action of this bath? The dog does. Okay? Now, Mel, I'm going to go on a limb here, but do you bathe yourself?
Yes.
Okay. So Mel also bathes herself. In this case, who's performing the bathing? Mel is. Who's receiving the benefits of the bath? Notice how it reflects back on the subject. That's what a reflexive verb is, where the subject, the person performing the action, receives all the benefit from the action. Where in this case, the dog is receiving the benefit of the bath. That's what a reflexive verb is. Now, when we actually conjugate it, okay, these verbs are characterized by the letters se. And we're going to use this verb bañar. Bañarse. You can see there. What does this mean when we translate it? It means to bathe oneself. Okay, but again, we don't say that. I think a couple of you say, Mother, I'm going to bathe myself. But we always say, take a bath. So that's what bañarse means. Now, when we conjugate this, that's what we're going to be learning about, is how to conjugate a reflexive verb correctly. We have this say in here that throws us off. Okay? Well, I'm going to go through 3 steps that you're going to use in order to conjugate a reflexive verb effectively. Okay? Step number 1, the first thing we notice is this reflexive pronoun se. That's what it's called. It's a reflexive pronoun. Okay? This will match whatever conjugation we're using. So let's go real quick through our conjugations. What form is this up here? That's the yo form. What does that mean? I. What's this one? To, which means you. This one here is what? El usted, which means he, she, or what's usted? You formal. Then we have nosotros, which means we. And then down here we have ellos, ellas, ustedes, which is, what's ellos and ellas? They. Ellas meaning girls. Ellos meaning everyone else. What's ustedes? You all. Plural, you. Alright. Each of these has this reflexive pronoun will actually change to match the subject. Each subject has its own reflexive pronoun. Okay, so what we're going to do real quick is the first step is to match the reflexive pronoun the subject. Why to the subject? Remember, the subject receives the action of this verb. Now let's go over what these pronouns are. In the yo form, does anybody know what the reflexive pronoun for the yo form would be? May is our reflexive pronoun. Yo may. The reflexive pronoun for the to form would be te. For the la usted, anybody know what it is? It's actually se. Notice se is the same, it doesn't change. Nosotros would be nos, and ellos y ustedes would be se. Third person, it's the same. It doesn't change, and it's the same as it is here. So it's the me, te, and the nos. Now notice, me, te, nos is also your direct object pronoun and your indirect object pronoun. Now we know it's also your reflexive pronoun. So the good thing about those three forms is any type of pronoun, it's going to be a me, te, or a nos. Here's where everything changes. Your direct objects would be lo, la. Your indirect object would be le. Your reflexive would be se. All right, so that's the first thing we do. So if we take this verb bañarse, here, okay, and we want to put it in the yo form, well, according to step one, we change this to what? To me, right? Because if it's yo, okay, now these are steps, so this isn't going to look right yet. So according to our first step, we're going to take bañarse and change it to me, because we know it's going to be the yo form, and we know that the yo pronoun is me. Step number two, okay, is move the reflexive pronoun to the front of the verb. Okay? So we're going to take this may, and where did I say we're going to move it? To the front of what? Of the verb. So we have our bañarme, okay, our yo, becomes yo me bañar. Now we're not done, because our last step, does anybody know what it's going to be? Yo me bañar. Does that look right? No. What do we have to do with bañar? Yeah, we conjugate it. Okay? We conjugate the verb. So, what we have here, let's look over to our verbs real quick. What would the yo form be of bañar? Baño. Notice we drop the air and add the o. Tu, te. Bañas. La, usted, se. Nosotros, nos. And ellos, ustedes, se baña. So in this case, we have our yo me bañar. Oops. Becomes what? It's written right there. Yo me baño. So this is how we get from here to here. Okay? There are 3 steps. Now a couple things to remember. If we're using a 2-verb rule, can I ever say I'm going to take a shower or going to take a bath? Do you ever say that? No, never. Yeah. I'm going to take a bath. In that case, voy a. Now we have our 2-verb rule. Voy a bañar. With that, I can put the pronoun either before the conjugated verb or after the non-conjugated verb. And I still have to change it, though, to match the subject. So I can say, voy a bañarme. Or, me voy a bañar. Now, the most important thing about reflexive verbs we've got to remember is always make sure that your reflexive pronoun and the ending of the verb is the same as far as the same subject. Because if I change it, and all of a sudden I say, oh yeah, me bañas, what did I just say? You bathe me. That's definitely not what we're trying to get around here. So make sure that you, because it reflects the subject in there. Are there any questions about that? Okay.